Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. With 5 days left until the end of voting, the dynamic of this race at its most essential core level has come into sharp focus. It is a battle between a pro-democracy majority and an anti-democracy minority. This is a fight for majority rule in this country to wrest control from the minority of Trumpists, a minority that has governed with disastrous and corrupt consequences. And that principle at the heart of this race is on display every day in the actions of the two campaigns and the two parties and the two coalitions. Everywhere you look, the Democratic Party's solution to the problem of Trump and the ongoing crisis in this country and the crisis of American democracy is to have everyone go vote. Make it as easy as possible to vote. Expand voting, as, for instance, Democratic officials have done in Harris County, Texas. Expand the time when people can vote. Work through the courts and through policy to be able to start counting votes before Election Day. And then count votes that might arrive late through the mail. The basic theory guiding all this is that the more people who participate in American democracy, the better for the country and the better for the majority of people who want to see an end to the Trump administration. On the other side, Donald Trump and Republicans are doing the exact opposite. And while it's immoral and fundamentally anti-democratic in its approach, it is not an irrational strategy for them. They know they are not going to win a majority of the vote. Last time, Donald Trump won with nearly 3 million fewer votes than Hillary Clinton. He has a ceiling of support that Politico called his 50% problem. Donald Trump's approval rating has never hit 50%. He remains under 50% in national polling averages. And it is dawning on mainstream observers of this race that stopping people from voting and stopping votes from being counted is the Trump campaign's only viable option for victory. As Politico puts it, never before in modern presidential politics has a candidate been so reliant on wide-scale efforts to suppress the vote as Trump. A lot of these voter suppression efforts, as we've been reporting, are coming through the courts. The president and his campaign and Republican agents across the country are flooding the courts with lawsuits to try and stop votes from being counted and from people casting votes. This is an incomplete list of lawsuits, very incomplete. There's hundreds. We had to shrink the font just to get all this on one page to give you just a taste of what's going on. So earlier this week, the Supreme Court sided with Republicans, ruling that Wisconsin cannot count mail-in ballots received after Election Day, even if they were mailed before Election Day. Last week, the Supreme Court agreed with Republicans, blocking an order allowing Alabama voters, particularly old and disabled voters, to cast their ballots curbside. Took that away. Court agreed with South Carolina Republicans early this month that mail-in ballots in the state must have a witness signature, making it obviously harder to do that. Pennsylvania Republicans tried and so far have failed to get the Supreme Court to reverse a state court ruling that will allow ballots that arrive up to 3 days after Election Day to be counted. Republicans in the Trump campaign tried the same thing in the state of North Carolina to stop ballots from arriving after Election Day to be counted, with the same result. They got rejected. The Trump campaign had previously sued to limit the use of drop boxes in Pennsylvania. In Nevada, they filed 3 different lawsuits to limit the state's expanded mail-in vote system. In Texas, the top court in that state upheld the Republican governor's policy, allowing only 1 drop-off box per county. That's 1 drop-off box for the 4 million people in Harris County. Texas Republicans also, by the way, are suing to void thousands of ballots that were cast by voters in their cars. Republicans in Michigan sued to block a ruling allowing voters to choose anyone to deliver their absentee ballots and requiring absentee ballots that arrive late to be counted. The Trump campaign and Republicans have won a series of victories in Iowa, limiting absentee voting, making it harder for counties to process absentee ballot applications. That is just a small sample of all the litigation that's been going on. Just minutes ago, Minnesota Republicans won a case in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. It's a federal appellate court that orders the segregation of late arriving absentee ballots in the state, the ones that come after Election Day but were mailed beforehand, with the suggestion that votes that arrive after 8 p.m. on Election Day be excluded from an official count. As conservative never-Trumper David French puts it, it is deeply disturbing that virtually everywhere the concerted litigation strategy of the GOP is to make sure that fewer votes count. The strategy goes far, far beyond any legitimate concern about fraud. The Trump and Republican strategy here has become completely untethered from any even invented claim, really, about fraud. I mean, they've voter suppressed in the past the voter ID where they said they were worried about fraud, and the president talks about fraud all the time. But in a lot of these lawsuits, They aren't even pretending that's what it's about anymore. Why would there be more fraud in a ballot that's mailed the day before your election or the one that's mailed 2 weeks before? The thin excuses for voter suppression efforts that we used to see are just gone. They just want fewer votes to be counted because they can't win any other way. And they think they have the courts on their side. And on top of that, maybe even more dangerously, Republican forces in battleground states are basically doing everything in their power to delay the counting of mail-in votes, which are, of course, expected to be heavily pro-Biden. In Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump won by over 17 points in 2016, the county election board announced yesterday it will not even start counting mail-in and absentee ballots until the day after the election. We are living through, as you may know, a once-in-a-century pandemic, which looks to be spiraling out of control with 5 days to go until the election day. The incumbent president is down an average of about 9 points in the polls. Unemployment is still nearly 8%. The fundamentals of this race are a disaster for the president and his party, and they know exactly what they're doing. Their last hope is to essentially subvert democracy itself, because a free and fair election in which everyone participates would result in a whooping.